Hey guys, we're back.
We're here like a bad penny.
Yeah, we missed last week because of me,
That
but we're back.
was a nice break though. Let's see. I'm going to put the link in the chat if anybody who's read the book wants to join us.
Yep.
And we are going over, let's see here, good energy. And which chapter was it?
We're on chapter 6.
We're in chapter 6, and we made it midway. We made it to page 147.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because it's chapter 6 is very thick and dense. And we could spend a lot of time on each one of these topics here.
And the second half of chapter 6 was, well, the very kind of towards the end of chapter 6 was the part that really kind of drove me nuts with all of her rules for eating.
Oh my gosh.
And I went back over it.
Thinking.
Yeah.
I know. And I went back over it, because it's been a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it again going, oh, seriously? Like, there's nothing simpler than the way we eat.
Yeah. Yeah, but most people would say, oh, there's nothing more boring than the way you eat.
True.
That is so true.
But to me, and you guys know I've tried to add things back in from time to time, and it just never seems to work out for me. But, the thing is, like, it's almost a relief when I get back to the point where I'm just focusing on the meat again, because it's just so easy. It's just so simple, and like, it's comforting to me, the simplicity of it,
Yeah.
Man, I'm so lazy. It's like
me too.
Morning, yes. So
and
like
I know it
morning,
won't betray me, like so many foods I'll eat. I'm like, okay, I've been betrayed. Now my toe hurts.
right. And so like this morning, I had already done some meal prep. So I had bacon, and then I cooked up some eggs. And I mean, there you go. There's my breakfast. Easy. 5 minutes, and you're done. And instead of all this, chopping up vegetables and, cooking and all this cleaning up. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
I'm way too lazy for that.
Yesterday I went to, it was called a nesting party. I guess instead of baby showers for, people who've already had several kids, now they're doing nesting parties.
Oh.
And it was fun. So it's like they had this like big white board, and they had these cards with tasks, and so we helped her. We cleaned her whole house. We organized the clothes so that her current kids have grown out of.
What?
And then there were all the stuff to get ready, right, for the baby, which is doing a little over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And part of it was meal prep, which I didn't take part in, but I kind of watched, because it took like 5 people like around her kitchen. She's got like the U-shaped kitchen, right?
Uh-huh.
And everybody had their own task, but there was so much peeling and chopping, and I'm like, I'm getting tired just watching them. It's like tons and tons of vegetables that were peeled and chopped and put in big bags, and there was a little bit of meat, but it was making a whole bunch of stuff for soups. And I was watching her, and I know she's really trying to eat healthy according to what she knows, right? And she keeps it very clean as far as chemicals and unprocessed and everything. But I was watching her chop up this mountain of kale, and all I was thinking was oxalates.
So kidding.
And I'm going, okay, that's a lot of oxalates you're feeding your family. And
Besides, who likes kale?
Ooh, I know. When you think about it, it's like, the vegetables are really like it's like the yucky stuff. I mean, the kids make the face and they turn their heads, and I never was like a vegetable lover. I mean, like, of course, you can put stuff on it. Like, for example, the broccoli with the cheese sauce. Okay, yeah, I'll eat that.
Right.
Or
it's like, who really likes salad, or do they like the dressing and the stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like I would get the salad at Chick-fil-A, and it was the chicken salad. But I mean, gosh, it had the nuts and the berries and all in the vinegar dressing and all this other stuff on it. And so, well, yeah, I mean, that was delicious, but it was like,
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing how sweet vegetables taste to me.
yep.
I mean, it almost feels like this is not right. You know, I'll have like those little peppers, get a
Mhm.
few of those, and I'm like, gosh, it's like I'm sitting here eating candy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had some of
A lot
those.
of sugar.
I had some of those at the low carb for better health. You know, it was more of a keto thing.
Mhm.
And so I did cheat on carnivore with keto. And they had some peppers and stuff. And you're right, they tasted sweet. And I'm like, I
They are
never
so
thought of a
sweet.
pepper as tasting sweet.
I know, I didn't either. I mean, I thought that it tasted a little sweet, but I mean, they're so sweet.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I wasn't
Anyway.
about to test the kale. It's like,
Blech.
I didn't taste anything. But
The only time I've ever liked kale is if they would make those kale chips, and mostly it was the olive oil and the salt that I liked.
right.
Because that's what it tastes
It
like.
was just a little bit of a platform for the oil and the salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it gave it a little bit of crunch. But yeah, but we're told we're supposed to like kale, or that kale is supposed to be healthy. And I think it goes back to breaking down foods according to what supposed nutrients they can provide, and going, well, this one provides this nutrient. We all need more of that. So
Yeah.
eat more of it. And the whole ignoring the anti-nutrients is just so prevalent. It's like, we've talked about this a lot. Like if they would actually share what the anti-nutrients are alongside the nutrients, that maybe it would be a big wake-up call for people.
And share what's actually in meat, because meat
Yes.
basically has all of that stuff.
Right. I honestly, before I started digging into it as a carnivore, like if you would have asked me what nutrients are meat, I would have said protein.
Yep.
And that would have been it. It's like, I had no clue how many nutrients are actually in meat. And
I think we would have said like iron.
Iron.
Yeah. B12.
I mean, I might not have even known the B12.
I seriously neither.
I like to think that I would have, but it's hard to remember, what you used to not know.
Well, and it's not promoted in our everyday environment like it is for other foods. And honestly, even the nutrient contents of veggies aren't necessarily going to be in advertising. In advertising, they're saying fortified with, like the cereals and all this stuff. It's fortified with these, vitamins, essential vitamins and minerals. Yeah. And it's not real food. And so, yeah, we have a major education deficit when it comes to the nutrients in meat, for sure, and the anti-nutrients in plants.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I guess we better get started on the book. We're gonna be on this chapter for 2 more weeks.
Hey, it's our book club. We can do what we want.
Yeah, it's a long chapter, that's for sure. All right. So are we on the section called Defining Processed Food?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Can I read this first paragraph? Because I thought this was interesting.
Yeah.
So ultra-processed foods make up 60% of calories consumed by adults and 67% of calories consumed by children. And they drive bad energy diseases like obesity, high blood pressure, dementia, type 2 diabetes, and insulin resistance. And the impact is major. In a recent study of 20,000 participants followed over 15 years, more than 4 servings of ultra-processed foods per day conferred a 62% increased hazard for death during follow-up. Each additional serving of ultra-processed food increased all-cause mortality by 18%. Now, she doesn't say whether this is total or relative, but it's still an increase. We must understand what ultra-processed foods are and how to avoid them at all costs. So then she says, spoiler alert, 4 servings of ultra-processed foods in a day is not as much as you might think. the total could look like a handful of pretzels, a serving of tortilla chips, a slice of store-bought bread, and a cookie.
Mm.
So I read that and I thought back to the way I used to eat. And it's like, no wonder I was so unhealthy, because I think that my caloric intake, this is 60% of calories were also ultra processed foods. I bet you maybe 80% or more of mine were.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, that would have been what the handful of pretzels, the serving of tortilla chips, slice of store-bought bread, and a cookie would have been what I would eat while I was standing around waiting for the food to be done.
Well,
Or, like eating, like, here's the thing that I used to eat a lot: chips and salsa.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh. I
love
used
chips
to
and
get tortilla
salsa.
chips, and I would eat, and I would buy get the salsa, and supposedly it was the good kind that, whatever. But, but I ate that a lot, and I'm just like, thinking on those chips and, the grains and stuff. I mean, it's like, but I would eat that a lot. That was one of my
Yeah.
go-tos. I mean, I would just eat that.
yeah.
For me, I'm just like realizing, and I'm not just realizing it, but over the past year and a half, I've started to realize just how bad the grains are. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew they were bad, but like they're really not good. They're
Yeah.
really inflammatory,
Yeah.
You're just
Well,
sitting there eating, and then all the seed oils on the chips.
Yeah, and here's the bad thing. Like, so my brother and I went to lunch with my dad Friday, and we have this Mexican restaurant we go to, and they are so awesome. I mean, they know us now, and so we get the steak ranchero with, and it was just in replacing the egg, or replacing the tortillas and stuff with the egg, with an extra egg or two. And so they're really good about that. But so anyway, my dad was talking about, he had gone, now he's 84. So, but he said, yeah, my A1C is 6.6. And I'm like, that is terrible.
Mm.
And he says, but I don't eat sugar. But, he was sitting there eating tortilla chips. And I was like, and I try not to be this annoying person who preaches about diet. I don't want to be that person, because when I was growing up, we had a vegetarian that was close to our family and would constantly, preach, and it was annoying. So I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, it's hard not to be though.
I know. But I did tell him, I said, okay, here's that is a terrible A1C. I'm not going to tell you how to eat, but the breads, the grains, he doesn't eat sugar, and that's good. But people don't equate the grains and all of that, which converts to glucose. They don't, because it's not sweet. You know what I mean? Like so they don't see it as,
and it's
being
not labeled as sugar.
Yep.
And so, yeah. And honestly, an endocrinologist would say, okay, well, if you're diabetic, that's an acceptable hemoglobin A1C.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that that's not an acceptable hemoglobin A1C. And if they would cut way down, if not completely out the carbs, that it would go down.
Yep.
So, it's just a matter of, understanding that just because it's not sugar going into your mouth doesn't mean that it doesn't turn into sugar before it gets into your cells.
Yeah, so he knows, like, he doesn't eat bread. Like, he was proud of himself, a couple weeks ago, because, he wasn't eating bread, and that's cool. But people just don't know that the other stuff that is supposed, like, the tortilla chips, they're corn chips, and, that's not that bad, and it's not sweet. And so you just don't think of it as being like a carb,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. And I felt kind of bad after I sort of snapped. I just told him, that's a terrible A1C. It's like, oh God, Carrie, don't be that person. Don't, just don't.
Well,
do
I mean, that part was true.
Yeah.
Regardless of what diet you follow, that's not a great A1C.
No, I mean, there's worse. And so like he may be hearing something different from his doctor.
Yeah, and he did. He said, "Well, my doctor said it was a good, I'm like, "Well, no, it's not because, you're diabetic, basically. You're
I
taking
mean, if you want to
metformin."
stay diabetic, it's a great A1C.
Yeah.
If you want to stay, exactly. Perfect wording there. If you want to stay a diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, they're not being told that they can recover from being a diabetic. And so that's to keep the A1C under 7 is the goal. And there's zero expectation of it to go back down to normal.
Yeah.
So
all right. So let's see here. Where do we want to go from here, Lynn?
Well, she has the 4 categories. Okay, so she's in this next section, she's basically spelling out the categories of, like, she says, what counts as processed food? And there's called a NOVA classification system that splits foods into 4 categories. And it's all based on how processed they are. And reading through this, I'm like, okay, I actually eat a lot of processed culinary ingredients based on these definitions. So, did you have something, Kim?
No, I'm talking to my husband.
Oh, okay. I saw this and I thought it was me. But the 4 categories are unprocessed and minimally processed foods. Processed culinary ingredients, and this is in order from the least processed to the most processed. And then the 3rd category is just called processed foods. And then the last worst category is ultra processed foods. So the unprocessed foods is basically the whole foods and with nothing else. And she even includes, like for meat, it's raw cuts of meat, poultry, and fish. She did say there's a caveat because it's unprocessed and minimally processed. So the amount of minimal processing that allows it to stay in this category are things like washing, crushing, grinding, filtering, roasting, canning, boiling, vacuum sealing, freezing, and non-alcoholic fermentation, pasteurization, or placing in containers. I was a little confused by the whole fermenting and pasteurizing still considered in this category, but it is. But it's basically, she says, it's because no part of the food has been stripped away or concentrated. So
I mean, aren't you kind of concentrating it by fermenting it?
I'm thinking you're definitely, aren't you changing the structure of it by fermenting?
I mean, you're definitely introducing a lot of bacteria in there.
Well, and one of them is taking away bacteria, the pasteurization. The other one is in growing more bacteria, the fermenting. So, but apparently that's the definition of that category. You can have no extra salt, sugar, or any other ingredients added.
Well, you have to add salt to ferment, don't you? I've watched them ferment. I watched Dr. William Davis make his little, or no, was it William Davis? I've watched so many people on YouTube, y'all.
Well, he is a big proponent of the fermentation. Wheat belly.
It wasn't William Davis. It was one of these other doctors. But anyway, he was pushing it down and adding like a third salt or something, or 1/3 salt. And I was like, is he talking about like the salt is a third or 1/3 of the thing is salt? Anyway, I was trying to figure it out, but he was adding salt and then like mashing it down and then closing it. It wasn't William Davis though. It was somebody else.
So Cynthia has some feedback for us here. She said fermenting is a natural process as opposed to a chemical process. Yeah,
that's true.
So I guess this category, it doesn't say that's why it's unprocessed and minimally processed food. So a little processing is okay. And yes, it does not add any chemical. It's nothing.
Well, I remember having a discussion with my son and he was like, well, if you like grinding up sausage is processing. So it's like, you sometimes that term gets thrown around and because bacon is technically processed,
I
but
mean,
it's
I think
yeah,
the goal for me is just to avoid ultra processed
yeah.
foods. Like, but yeah, I mean, if we're talking about definitions, I mean, I guess people could argue this all day, but
Yeah.
um,
But the processed culinary ingredients are probably more where I hang out as far as what I eat. So things like oil, well, I don't eat oils, but it's butter. And of course, I don't have sugar, maple syrup, but lard, non caloric ingredients like salt, um, things that are extracted from natural foods or nature by milling, drying, pressing, grinding, crushing, refinement. And she says they're inherently unbalanced, concentrated, and generally energy dense foods, with the exception of salt, that are rarely consumed by themselves. Um,
I mean, I eat plenty of processed meats, and I don't think there's anything wrong with them.
Yeah, like salami. I mean, I had salami and cheese, for example,
yeah.
and I mean,
I,
it's
I don't eat very many. I wasn't eating any for quite a while because they do tend to be more high on the histamine scale. But
Yeah.
yeah, but my husband eats them all the time and doesn't have any issues at all with them. Um, then of course we definitely do not eat the vegetable seed oils at all because of the omega-6s. They're just very unhealthy. And then processed foods are, she gives a lot of, she gives like whole grain type stuff, like unpackaged whole grain breads, tomato sauce without sugar, bacon cured with salt, fruit preserved in syrup, vegetables or beans canned in a salty brine. So she said the easiest way to identify processed foods is by looking for oils, salt, or sugar on the label. So, and she says some processed food can be part of a healthy diet. And again, it comes down to reading the label. So she used flackers, the flaxseed crackers as an example, which of course we don't eat because they only have a few ingredients. They are flaxseed, apple cider vinegar, sea salt, not heavily processed. She talks about grass-fed organic raw cheddar cheese made of unpasteurized milk and sea salt. So I guess those are processed, but they don't have a ton of ingredients. Is that what you guys gather from that category?
Yeah, and the ingredients aren't changed a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They aren't like finely milled and
mm-hmm.
had things extracted and then added back and all that.
But she did say that most of the foods in the processed food category are problematic and tend to contain far too much sugar, salt, and oil. Like things like ketchup, salad dressing, peanut butter. So she's definitely recommending avoiding foods with refined vegetable or seed oil, refined grains, added sugar, or any ingredient that is not recognizable food. So, but then
Not really. I mean, really, I agree with that. I think
Yeah, you
if people did that, if they eliminated the seed oils, if they eliminated the sugar, if they eliminated the grains, and the highly processed stuff, even if they weren't strict, like if they ate potatoes and sweet potatoes and other stuff like that, but I think if you started out young enough, like if I don't know, like in your teens or something, but
Yeah.
that you would be so much healthier doing that, and you would be fine. Like, and you might have to refine things as you got older, possibly, maybe eliminating some of that stuff. But I think for the most part, it's just people are so inundated right now with all of that processed stuff, and then we're told, oh, these grains, this bread, this this it's all good for you, so you should eat it. Like one thing that I used to eat a long time ago was I would eat like the whole wheat bread with peanut butter. That was supposedly good for you, so I would eat that, and it's not. But it was just something that was supposed to be good for you. The peanut butter was supposed to be pretty healthy. Of course, now they have like the actual peanut butter that might be better. Like there again, if you're younger, the peanut butter that you have to refrigerate after you open it, and it's got like, I don't know, it's like peanuts and salt are the only ingredients. And, that might be good. There again, if you're starting out young,
Yeah.
and you're
It's
not
still not easy to find a peanut butter that's just peanuts and salt. Even, like
Publix has it.
yeah, we had to give our dog some medication, and he, takes it pretty well in a little bit of peanut butter. And so we, of course, have no peanut butter in the house. So we went to the local market, which actually is like a Whole Foods. And so it's supposed to be all natural. Oh my goodness. We were reading through the labels of all of the different peanut butters that are supposedly natural. The only one we found was the one that they ground in the store and put in a little, container with their own label that was just peanuts and salt. And everything else had something else in it that we did not want to feed our dog. And it would have been great to find one that was just peanuts. We couldn't find that. It was just peanuts and salt. But I mean, they have the grinder there that, we could have gone and actually just ground unsalted peanuts. And that probably would have been a good choice for the dog.
Doesn't sound good.
But again, it's a dog, right? So he loves peanut butter. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But you talked about like a teenager. I think that they could probably handle some of these foods, but I still think it's really important to make sure that they have the majority of their diet being meats and animal fats. And because you still have to look at, I definitely wouldn't recommend them being a vegetarian, because that's a lot of years of eating a lot of, anti-nutrients in their diet and really nothing really to combat that. All right, so just think of our grandparents. Processed foods did not exist, neither did obesity. They actually made their breads. Yeah. I was making my own bread out of whole wheat berries that I ground at home in my Vitamix. I got a dry container, a dry grinding container, and this was before I started carnivore, of course. And I don't know how it affected my weight necessarily, but I know that my gut handled it a lot better when I made it myself. And it was all, no chemicals in it, And
when you think about it, I mean, like I don't know, like our parents and grandparents, they didn't give all this thought to the food. Like, of course, my mom was raised on a farm. And so that they had the meats and the vegetables from the garden, and they had the fresh milk and that kind of thing. And so people were just healthier back then, even though they ate the breads and stuff. And so I just think really the introduction of the seed oils is a big part of it. And the fact that people were cutting back on the meat, and specifically like the red meat, I think being told that, no, that meat is bad for you. And so people cut back. And of course, then, I mean, you have only so many options to eat. And so they, increase the breads and the carbs and stuff. And that just, because like they would even eat this, they would have desserts and stuff. So it's like, I don't necessarily think that all carbs and stuff are like just terrible. I think that I really think the big culprit, just in like doing a lot of reading and like reading Gary Taubes, I think that the seed oils are a huge culprit.
Oh, yeah. So inflammatory. And Charlie, I love this. He says, I wonder how ever described before there were pyramids, plates, compasses, and Nova classification systems.
Right. Yep.
How on earth did anyone know how to eat?
And then Cynthia, did we read that?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Seriously, yes, we do. But I think that people have to break down these foods and analyze them because of the condition our health is in now. Try to solve a problem that we created by redefining things. instead of going back to the way we used to eat.
So then the next heading is ultra processed foods. And ultra processed foods are created in industrial factories by combining various extracted and adulterated parts from different foods with synthetic ingredients like preservatives and food colorings. These frankenfoods you should never eat and never give to your children.
Yes.
Nope.
We're in trouble, aren't we?
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's
oh my gosh.
like
Instant
I feel
mashed
like that's like
potatoes.
I feel
Oh my
like this
God.
is like 80%, if not more, of what's in the grocery store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when I used to pack my kids' lunch for school and everything, and it's like the whole thing is easy because you're busy, right? Your work and
Yeah.
everything, and it's like have a lineup of stuff in the pantry with easy, just grab prepackaged stuff to throw into their lunch. And I'd make them a sandwich, but often it was like peanut butter and jelly, and even and then my daughter loved those like pre-made peanut butter and jelly, the round ones.
Yes, the ones without the crust.
Without the crust.
Yes.
Uncrustables. Yeah, that you get to go to Costco and you get a huge
Yeah.
box of them, and you just pull a couple out of the freezer and throw them in the kids' lunch, and and yeah. So I mean, when I think back to all of that type of food, it was like, wow. So it was all ultra processed foods,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I made my
And then
share of those instant mashed potatoes.
Oh yeah, I think those are actually good. So I had a special way of making instant mashed potatoes where it made them taste like real potatoes.
Yep. Funny too.
I'm not going to share it with y'all. I'm not telling y'all. I don't want to make instant mashed potatoes better for anybody. But yeah, that's how many acrobatics I did to that convenience. But then she goes
I
on
did
to
use
list.
real butter.
Yeah. So then she goes on to list like beverages, bakery and desserts, cereals and granolas, dairy, meat and poultry, snacks, frozen foods. She lists like each category of food and lists like examples of ultra processed foods. I think in this community, that's kind of not even completely necessary. Like we understand that at this point, right?
Right.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting too, because she talks about cereal bars, and I remember eating those thinking that was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to get Cliff bars all the time and thinking that, oh, well, that's healthy because, right, it shows a hiker on the package.
Yeah. I think most things that come in a bar are not healthy. Like,
Well,
I feel like
I know that now.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I feel like that could be like a general rule, but then again, I guess there are some bars that would be healthier than others.
There is one bar that I will order and I will eat them when I go hiking, and it's AUPA. They're APA bars, and I found out about them last year when I went to the Low Carb for Better Health, and they, had some samples in the goodie bag, and the ingredients are very clean. Hey, no sponsorship whatsoever. I mean, I'm not. Hello, my channel is tiny, but anyway, but these bars are but they're basically carnivore bars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man. So I do order those. And so sometimes my friend James and I will go hiking and stuff, and I'll take an APA bar or two with me to have. And
I mean, reading the ingredients is just key.
Yep.
I carry these, and to me, this is healthy. So I don't care what anybody.
And it has some seasonings.
It's not perfect, I guess, but like it's good enough for who it's for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can actually eat those too. I mean, and there was a time where I was maybe I had to be a little more careful with them because it does have a couple of ingredients that are high histamine, but now I can eat them without any problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, all the bars are not good. And it talks about like instant oatmeal packets, but not that
Man, I used to eat a bunch of those and the instant grits.
I love instant oatmeal. But what really kind of surprised me in a way was the soups and broths. Not the ramen noodles, that didn't surprise me, but
Yeah.
like Campbell's chicken noodle. I mean, how benign is that, right? Like you would
Right.
just think, well, that's healthy, of course,
Yeah, you
And
eat
then
that when you're
even like
sick, to
yeah,
feel
and then
better.
I even had to recently throw some of these away because I was hanging on to them for dear life. The Lipton's soup mix, I would add that to a roast,
Yeah.
and it would just it tastes really good.
Does it have
Mhm.
MSG though?
I mean, I'm sure they do.
Probably a lot of these. I know a lot of
I'm
the
sure they
bowls.
have a lot of ingredients and chemicals in them.
Yeah, a
You
lot
know,
of
it's
these
it
do
just
have
it just goes
MSG.
to show, like, you don't think of things like that as being unhealthy. Even when you're eating meat, you don't always think. You just think, "Oh, spices," you know?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so these are foods, and she did a little section here about yogurts, and which was kind of interesting because, like, I remember, and so she brings up the ultra processed yogurts, and she brings up two examples: the Dannon Light and Fit yogurt, which I used to eat, but the ingredients in here include the cultured and non-fat milk. Of course, it's non-fat, right? Because that's supposedly the healthier version, which we know is not.
Right.
Water, fructose, natural and artificial flavors, modified food starch, sulfame, I don't know, potassium, sucralose, which is, artificial, sweetener, citric acid, potassium sorbate, yogurt cultures, 11 ingredients, chemicals known to disrupt the microbiome. And then the Yoplait Kids yogurt cup has the low fat milk, sugar, a second ingredient, modified cornstarch, regular cornstarch, natural flavor, potassium sorbate, and then the dyes: red 40, blue 1, yellow 5, vitamin A acetate, vitamin D3, 11 ingredients, 0 active cultures, colorings known to be toxic and require warning labels in Europe. She said, for example, in vitro experiments found potassium ascorbate to be genotoxic and have a negative effect on immunity, and some research links hyperactivity and inattention in children to coloring agents. And do you remember the little, what are the tubes of yogurt that the kids
Go-gurts.
Yogurt.
Yogurts.
Yogurt.
Yeah, the kids would squeeze it. Yeah.
Yes. I used to give those to my kids, thinking I was giving them a healthy snack.
Yep.
Yeah. And Cynthia says that yogurt is really only one ingredient. Yeah, I've made yogurt in my Instant Pot before I was carnivore. I'd put a gallon of whole milk, organic whole milk, and I would break up some probiotic capsules into it and let my Instant Pot do its yogurt cycle. And you got to do the temperature thing, and there's a little process, but it made great yogurt. And then you get you drain it, so that it becomes more like Greek yogurt, and it would drain like the whey, and I'd use that in baking as the liquid in baking my bread.
Okay.
But it was easy, like literally milk and probiotics. And that's what we would eat for yogurt. So, but of course I had to add sweetener to it, right?
I would like to try to make some yogurt. I do on occasion, not every day, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. I have yogurt, I get Cabot's brand. They have it at Publix, and I think they also carry it at Walmart, but I never go to Walmart because it's annoying.
Yeah.
So I go to Publix for the experience, and but I get the Cabot's Greek yogurt, and it is fabulous. And so it's almost like a dessert for me, but I have it plain. So it's funny, like my grandson will be like, he'll talk about Gaga's yogurt. I'll have some like berries and maybe put it in there and give it to him.
Yeah.
But but to me, it's a dessert, even though like to most people, it wouldn't be considered a dessert, I guess, because it's just plain, Yeah.
I
Yeah.
tried to eat yogurt for a while, and I just discovered that it feeds my candida.
Mm.
So, maybe eventually,
Some people
I've been
can handle
reading on
it.
some gut healing, protocols recently, and one of the things that I was reading was William Davis's stuff, and, also watching some videos, and it sounds to me like once you, do heal your gut, that usually, well, that you for one, you shouldn't have a problem with candida in your gut after you've healed your gut. So, but I've been trying for probably, 7 or 8 years to heal my gut. So we'll see. I don't know if it's ever going to be successful, but
Mhm.
I've been drinking a lot of beef, or bone broth, not beef broth, beef bone broth,
Mm.
and trying to, do some things to help out. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Well, she brings up Strauss brand whole milk organic Greek yogurt as an example of what's good to eat. It just has the organic whole milk and the yogurt cultures, which is exactly what I had in my homemade yogurt. So homemade yogurt is not necessarily, it's like a 12-hour process, and even longer if you have it draining and cheesecloth in your
Oh yeah.
but it makes a ton. I mean, it makes a lot. So I thought it was worth it. I haven't done that for a long time though. So, okay. So she does talk about changing the incentive structure for food and health system because of the fact that it's cheaper to buy these ultra processed foods because of the subsidies that our government provides. So I totally agree with her
Yeah.
on that one. Okay. So
Yeah, because if the subsidies weren't there, I mean, there would be no incentive for them to put these cheap, crappy ingredients in stuff.
right. And it's
So
all
I really, I hope, I mean, who knows? You, and I don't get political really, but I mean, I know that there's been a discussion lately about, processed foods and how it's affecting our children and stuff like that. And I just really hope that people start paying attention to this. And we talked about this a little bit, before we went live, but like I went to this Highland Games Festival, and it really, of course, there was another issue too. A friend of mine had passed away. She was 56 years old, had heart problems and diabetes and all this. And so then I go to this thing, and like nobody was healthy. Nobody, like not even. And I was just like, what is happening to our country and to our people? And here's another thing that really irritated me was last year I ate haggis, which is like, it's a traditional Scottish dish, and it's prepared like basically like it's the cow's stomach and liver and stuff like that, and then they prepare it with eggs. And this year they had a pastry, and so this woman sat down next to me, and I was kind of getting a little bit hungry, and I was like, and I thought, well, maybe I could get the pastry and just like not eat the bread. But like the bread to meat ratio was like 70-30. It was ridiculous. It was terrible. Basically, it was all like bread. And I was like, well, I'm not getting that, because I asked her, I was like, well, how much meat do you actually have in there? And she showed me, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not getting that. I'll wait.
So there was really nothing there that you could eat this year?
No. So I didn't eat there, and it was okay.
They didn't have any turkey legs.
They did have turkey legs, but I didn't want to get, I wanted the haggis because like I loved it. Like last year, they had a food truck that they did it like authentically, or as close as you can get in the United States. Apparently I don't know, there's some reason why you can't make like true Scottish haggis in the United States, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it was pretty close. It was as close as you can legally get, and it was so. I had never had it before, and it was so good. It just and I loved it. And so I wanted to have it again. And nobody would, I don't know why the vendor wasn't there again this year. I have no idea, but nobody had the haggis. So I just didn't, we waited and went to an Irish restaurant called McNamara's afterward. We just went somewhere and ate, but it was just, I was so disappointed, but it was sad seeing all these people and then having my friend, like I had a friend who passed away in April who had autoimmune, like this terrible autoimmune condition that ended up taking her life. And then, so then I have this other friend who just passed away. And then now her husband is in hospice. And these people are 56 years old, y'all.
Yeah, that's my age.
And I'm like,
So
what?
sad.
What is happening with our population? And like there again, I was like, my friend James and I were like the only like people I shouldn't say this, but I mean, it was like there so many, the vast majority of the population there was just terribly unhealthy. And like the food that they were selling was like, it was disappointing because there wasn't authentic food. It was like stuff like, I don't know, they had like ice cream dots and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Even when I was not eating carnivore and I absolutely adored ice cream, I hated ice cream dots.
Mm-hmm.
For me to hate anything
That texture.
yeah, like.
Ugh.
Okay.
So Charlie said there was a good 20-minute CBS special documentary the other day that described ultra-processed foods as a result of high-tech inventions. Ultra-processed foods have their own trade shows like technology does.
Not
Yeah, because as humans, we think that we're so smart that we should just make our own food.
right.
I mean, that's just kind of funny to me. I don't know.
Right. Well, it's part of the technological revolution, and that's supposed to be a good thing, right? It may be good when it comes to transportation, but it's not good when it comes to food.
Yeah. Oh, and then Lynn was wanting to know, Charlie, do you know the name of the documentary so we can all go watch it?
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, I was watching, I forget, it wasn't a carnivore interview, but I was watching an interview with this doctor from the UK, and he was talking about, how the health of people in the UK is getting worse, but he said in the United States, it's just been shocking. He said every time he visits the US, it's like so surprising to see the obesity in the US is getting so much worse.
And it's gotten worse in the last few years.
Well,
I know that there's been a trend,
and
but the last few years has been awful.
Yeah. People are more sedentary.
It's quicker too. Like it happens quicker. People are gaining weight at just a crazy rate.
Yep.
I mean, I see a lot of people, like even when you're working in a hospital, you see like most of the healthcare providers, including myself, we're overweight. And, we have medical knowledge. It's just really sad that even we don't have the knowledge that it would require to have a healthy life,
And medical
we have the
knowledge
knowledge that it would take to treat our symptoms if we develop symptoms.
Exactly. Medical knowledge has nothing to do with nutrition. It has to do with pharmaceuticals and, and as nurses, we do other non-pharmaceutical stuff, but still it doesn't have to do with nutrition. So let's see. So Susan says the obesity in the UK is so bad now because of all the US fast food and restaurants. Yes, that's what this doctor was saying. He was saying that it's typically tends to be that things start in the United States, and before long, it's spreading to other countries. So,
but here's the thing, and the fast food restaurants used to cook in like beef tallow and stuff, so that, granted, fries, hello, carbs, potatoes, whatever, but they used to cook those and the chicken nuggets and all that stuff in beef tallow. And then the CSPI and Tom McNaughton has a great documentary that talks about this, but they basically forced the restaurants to start using seed oils.
Right.
And so now they were forced to do it. So I don't blame the restaurants. I really don't. I mean, there is a purpose, people, want something quick, whatever, but they were forced to use these terrible seed oils. And of course, Nina Teicholz, beautifully talks about how it's even getting worse with the seed oils. So, it's like when you start legislating stuff, it gets dangerous.
Right.
It's like, so basically what happened was the CSPI was basically saying, you're killing your customers, you're, giving them the animal fats, whatever, you need to use these seed oils, or they didn't say seed oils, but I mean, you need to use these other oils, because they're healthier. It lowers your cholesterol, whatever. And so they caved, the restaurants did what they were told to do. And so now, though, you have the fries and the McNuggets and whatever, but they're cooked in this crap, and they were forced to use it. So I see, in a sense, but I mean, in the 60s and 70s, there were fast food. McDonald's has been around for forever. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think it's the whole fast food thing. I think that there's other nefarious causes.
Well, let's get the vicious cycle. When the government subsidizes certain crops, and those crops go to produce those oils or those sugars or whatever, then it makes sense to then legislate businesses to use them, because it just keeps the cycle going.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So this next section to me was like, I don't know. I don't feel like I really cared that much about it, to be honest, because she spent a lot of time talking about the micronutrients in a lot of plant-based foods.
Hey, Russ.
Hey, Russ. And talked about, so I don't know how much you guys time we want to spend on it, but she's, talks a lot about micronutrients, antioxidants, how they.
Wait, what page are you on right now?
155.
So I thought we should go over her stocking the Good Energy Kitchen.
Oh yeah, that's you want to get inexpensive.
This is like more about what her recommendations would be.
Yeah, that's a short section before the one that I was annoyed by.
This is, I think of this more of like a generality kind of thing, so I'm just going to read off her points here. Here are a few of my favorite ways to get organic food as cheaply as possible, which I think is a good idea. And, not everybody is carnivore, and that's okay. And you can be healthy and not be carnivore. But buy frozen organic fruits, vegetables, meats, and wild-caught fish in bulk, and buy fresh and freeze. I get 4 pounds of organic frozen cauliflower rice weekly at Costco for under $10, which makes close to 8 meals. Cook large batches of organic beans or lentils in the slow cooker or stovetop. Bulk organic beans and lentils are often less than $4 a pound. Purchase the cheapest organic nuts and seeds in bulk. For instance, organic pine nuts can be upward of $44 a pound. Good. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. While organic flax and chia seeds are often less than $6 a pound. Purchase whatever organic produce happens to be on sale. Doing so has the added benefit of getting me to try new foods. Buy wild cut fish like salmon instead of fresh fish.
Canned fish.
Huh?
She said, yeah, she said wild caught canned.
Oh, canned. Okay. Join a community-sponsored agriculture program or sign up for an organic produce delivery that ships misshapen foods that otherwise would go to waste, like imperfect foods.
My
get
daughter
their
does
box.
that,
I get their
actually.
box, but I don't get any veg. I get the like meat and other stuff like that. But I have a weekly box delivered on Mondays from them.
That's cool. Replace meat and fish with plant-based proteins like beans and lentils for some
She
meals
loves
to
her
cut
beans and
costs.
lentils. She mentions it many times.
Sorry. Just wanted to hit myself in the face. Talk to farmers at the farmers market to get the best deals. Farmers will often reduce the price of certain items they have in excess that week. Additionally, there are many farms that use no synthetic pesticides but have not yet gone through the costly and lengthy process to obtain official USDA organic certification. Their products will be chemical-free and likely cheaper than the certified organic and are a great option. So the two things I got out of this that I really like, well, three things. One is choose organic fruits and vegetables. Okay. That's an absolute must. If you're eating them, you should make sure you're eating organic. And then also I do like the suggestion she said of going to the farmer's market and you talking to the farmer and just verifying that they don't use things and it doesn't have to have like she said that's an expensive process to get that label put on things. And also the farmer's market is it's always better to buy local, if
Mhm.
we support our farmers, the more, it's like voting with our dollars. And then the third thing is, when I do have some berries from time to time, I love to buy my berries. I don't even keep them out anymore at all. Like I just put them in the freezer. I rinse them off. I put them in the freezer, and that is the best. It's like a little dessert. You can just have a little small handful of berries, maybe two, three, four. Why am I echoing? Do y'all hear that?
Oh, wow. Yeah. What happened?
I don't know. I
That
didn't
was
do it.
weird.
I didn't change anything, so I don't know. Anyway, you can just have just a few berries, and it's like a little dessert, Anyway, that's what I had from that section.
Yeah, I don't know about the cauliflower rice and the beans and the lentils, but it's better than
I
grain.
think cauliflower rice is better than grains, but
Yeah.
it's just so easy to overeat,
Well,
Now, what I have done
yeah, it's more
once
doesn't
in
have
a
much taste.
while is I'll have the cauliflower crust for a pizza.
Yeah.
And like I'll get the crust itself once in a blue moon. It's not very often, but I'll get the crust, Publix, and just build put lots of meats and stuff on there, to make a pizza with. And once in a blue moon, my brother and I will have that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like it used to be like years ago when we'd get together, and we'd have pizzas and stuff. And so it was, just once in a while we do that just as I don't know, because it's cool. It's nice to, have some pizza and watch a movie, So
Well,
I will
and
do
you
the
have to be
cauliflower
careful.
crust. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Carrie, but you have to be careful what cauliflower crust you get too, because when I was doing keto, I was like, oh, cauliflower crust. So I'm going through and I turn it over to the back, and it's like, even some of the cauliflower crust, I found ingredients like wheat in it.
Yes. You have to be very
Like,
careful.
why would anybody who wanted a cauliflower crust want wheat in it? That's
exactly.
crazy.
Well, it's kind of like them putting margarine in with butter, right? And
Yeah.
seed oils in with butter. It maybe it's like cheaper if you mix wheat in it. Maybe the consistency and the texture is not quite. It's like easier to do.
Well, and we have to remember they care about selling, they don't care about our health.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, and there's carnivore pizza crusts. You don't have to do pizza crust made with any carbs. You can make carnivore pizza crust. And
I love my pizza crust, and it's so simple and easy. All it is an egg and a little bit of shredded cheese, and you put it in the the little the little waffle maker. The Dash, is it Dash? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's delicious and it tastes just like bread. Like it's really good.
Interesting. So, all righty. Okay. So this next section did drive me crazy. I'll let you guys decide how much you want to go through it, but I guess every time she starts breaking down like all these different nutrients, and then she proceeds like the nutrients that you need to feed your mitochondria and everything, and then she proceeds to recommend things like your spinach and your almonds and all these other stuff that I'm like,
maybe we could just go through each heading and tell like what she says about it. Like, how she says, she gives that one little quote under each one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because this table is a little too much. I know you like your tables, but
I didn't even bother making slides at this table because it's like, when I look, okay, so I'm going to just kind of show the double page spread.
Yeah.
This is just 2 of was it 4 pages basically of this table?
Yeah.
Where it lists the micronutrient in one column, the good energy benefits in the next column, and the sources in the third column. And it's like, to me, this is kind of kickstarting her whole process that she goes into further at the end of the chapter of how much you need to micromanage what you're eating in order to get all these nutrients. And it's just too much for my brain.
And even when you're eating I don't want to say a standard diet, but even when you're eating a diet that's non-ketogenic, but still somewhat healthy. Okay.
Like a whole food diet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you have to do all that.
I don't think so either.
I think your cravings from your body are there for a reason. And your body is going to crave things that it's lacking. Or sometimes you can even develop like pica, or I say pica. I don't know how some people pronounce it different, where you want to eat things like ice when you're low on iron or,
anemia,
things like that. Yeah. So I feel like, well, to me, it's just always made sense that you're going to get like some of these ingredients, like they require such micro amounts that you're going to get it as long as you're eating real food. Maybe if you're eating fast food every day, you might be a little deficient, but even then, I mean, the human body is very forgiving. You can abuse it for years before you start to see actual problems.
Right. Exactly.
A lot of that's just my opinion, but
yeah. No, I agree.
So the first one that she said was micronutrients and antioxidants. Micronutrients and antioxidants tell the mitochondria you are resilient. So they're small molecules like magnesium, zinc, selenium, and B vitamins that serve 4 main functions in the cell, supporting good energy. I mean, I think we can all agree.
Well, eggs have lots of selenium. I mean, you can eat bacon and eggs and be perfectly fine,
I mean, I think that eggs are like the perfect human food.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really weird because like the past few days I hadn't had any eggs. I didn't want any. And then this morning, suddenly I cooked up several. So it's just your body, like you're right, Kim. It's like your body kind of tells you, it's like, okay, I wanted some bacon. I knew I wanted bacon, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to have eggs today. Yeah. And so I did.
Yeah. I mean, if your signals are working properly, like my body before would tell me I want sugar.
Well, yeah.
True. But that was actually not a craving for a certain nutrient. That was a craving because you were addicted.
Right.
That's an addict brain talking.
Exactly.
Which people love to say, oh, you're not really addicted to sugar. But if it makes your brain light up like cocaine, I mean,
right.
I don't know. I don't agree.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was definitely addicted to sugar. So I feel like now I can listen better to my body signals than before.
Yeah.
So
Um, so number 2, does anybody want to read the number 2? It's on.
about the CoQ10.
No, the number 2 is omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the section I was a bit like a little more interested in was the omega-3. So
I mean, you can talk about CoQ10 too if you
oh,
want.
I just brought it up because she mentioned that I just didn't realize she said that it supports fertility. Which is of course something that like my youngest daughter, they're trying to get pregnant, her and her husband. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh cool. And but it does say under her handy dandy chart, it does say that CoQ10, the good source is beef. So organ meats, heart, liver, sardines, and beef. So
Yeah.
the chart does actually have quite a bit of meat in here as sources. So that was okay. But okay, so omega-3 fatty acids tell the cell you are safe. And then she talks about the omega-3s, LAA, EP, and DHA, the type of polyunsaturated fatty acid, which is key for elements of cell structure, inflammatory pathways, metabolic pathways. And omega-3 also contribute to artery elasticity. So, and of course, with the standard Western diet, the ratio that we tend to get if you eat according to what most Americans eat is 20-1 in favor of the omega-6s, which are the inflammatory fatty acids, whereas we should be closer to 1-1. And so the higher ratio is because of the consumption of refined seed and vegetable oils, like canola, soybean, vegetable, safflower, sunflower, and corn oils, and less consumption of omega-3 rich whole foods like wild fatty fish, chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts. But she does talk about how the cells will, the immune cells are going to grab the fatty acids that it has access to. So if you feed it a ton of omega-6s, your immune cells are going to grab and utilize the omega-6 in the membrane of the cells, but the omega-6 signal the molecules that tend to exacerbate and lengthen your inflammatory reaction. So she brought up the example of COVID, where if you've got an existing inflammatory illness and you have a ton of omega-6s, that your cells are your immune system is going to grab those omega-6s, which is going to promote further inflammation. It doesn't signal the body to shut down the inflammatory response. Whereas she said that omega-3s directly decrease the activity of this NFXB, the master inflammatory pathway, to turn it down after an inflammatory episode. So if you've got COVID, or if you've got another illness and you have the omega-3s on board, then your immune system is going to grab those omega-3s instead of the omega-6s, which manufacture these resolvins and protectins that basically kind of trigger your inflammatory response to turn off. That's kind of my understanding.
But here we go. The best way to get your omega-3s in the first: chia seeds, basil seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, hemp seeds.
Yes, and she does mention fish.
So if you weren't successful,
yeah.
If you weren't successful in the hunt and you were forced to gather, that's how you can do it.
There you go. But the first thing she this is not alphabetical, because if it was alphabetical, she would have listed anchovies first. She listed this in order of what I'm guessing is probably her preference. I don't know. I'm just reading into it. But yeah, she's got the first 5 things on the list are seeds. And then the rest of it is all fish. And the very last thing on the list at the top of the next page is pasture raised, 100% grass fed game like venison and bison, also beef, lamb, and eggs. So
I mean, that should be like number 1
for us.
Yes.
And guys, keep in mind, we sound like we're being critical of this
We
lady.
are.
definitely
And I
not.
love her. No, I love
We
her.
think
And I just
she's
watched another
wonderful. We
interview.
really do.
Yeah, I watched another interview, with her
Yeah.
last night. I love her, and she's really, she wants people to be healthy and to to get away from the processed foods and all of
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so there again, like I said, I think if people started out like in their, like, say, teens or whatever, or they started out with their kids and they
Yeah.
fed them the way that she's recommending, with the vegetables and the nuts and stuff in addition to the meat, then I think people would be okay. It's just unfortunate, however, that we've got a lot of folks who are metabolically damaged, and these recommendations, unfortunately, are not feasible for a lot of people.
And she didn't say whether, like, she ranked them in order of, like, concentration of omega-3s.
Yeah.
Potentially. She didn't say, like, where that order came from, because there doesn't seem to be, it's like, obviously it's not alphabetical. So I don't know if there is a reason to list the seeds first or not. But, it may be that one little chia seed, the concentration of omega-3s may be high, but you got to eat a ton of them, right? So
I want to tell you guys about this. I can't believe I didn't tell you all this. But the other day I was at the eye doctor, and every time I go to this eye doctor, I end up talking to her about the carnivore diet. I've been to her like 3 times because I take my kids and stuff. So, and we always end up talking like for a little while. She's not carnivore, but she's just very interested. So this year, I start talking to her, and I'm talking about like generalities, like just, just talking about our food and stuff like that. And then it comes back around to, I'm actually carnivore. And I think she forgets, like she talks to so many people. She's like, oh, my husband's carnivore. I said, oh, he is. And then that led us to just talking about like, the unacceptable standards that we have in the United States for food versus other places. And then she says, oh, I'm reading this really good book right now. And she said, it's by Casey Moore. And I said,
Casey
and
Means.
immediately I said, I just looked right at her and I said, Casey Means. And she's looking at me. She's like, what? She said, have you heard of that book? I said, I've not only heard of the book. I actually have a YouTube channel where we have a book club based on the low carb diet. And we're actually doing her book right now.
Yes, we are. Yep.
So,
wow.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Interesting. So this Mike says that Casey and her brother Callie are advisors to RFK Jr. He wants to reform the FDA and make America healthy again. I hope he can.
He's not running anymore, so I don't think that's going to work out very well for him. But sorry, Mike. Sorry.
Depends on who gets elected, right? So I know.
Let's not go there.
Well, but it would be really nice, even if either party would see how he's trying to make this healthy. But obviously, one party will give him an opportunity, and the other party is not going to.
I think that unfortunately, none of the politicians, no party's going to actually do anything about it, because it all comes down to money. And no matter how much we love our candidates, they are very heavily influenced by money.
Yeah.
And not
even if he's
good for us, because trust me, we've had people in the past that tried, and it.
Yeah. Well, even if he gets recommended and like a nominated for a position, if it needs to go through our Congress to get approved, I think the likelihood of him getting approved is basically nothing.
Yeah, it's not going to.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I know he's definitely would at least help us hopefully get on the right track when it comes to the health in our country.
And what's good is it's being talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, something may not be done, but I think, of course, during the period of time of the illness that shall not be named, people started becoming very skeptical and questioning things. And it's good now that he's actually bringing this, into the media. I mean, people are actually reporting on it.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think people like Casey Means are more important than any politician in
Yep.
bringing this
for sure.
to life.
Yeah, for sure. Because a politician, I mean, there again, I think that it's kind of like doctors. I mean, I think some politicians, they go in, they're bright eyed and bushy tailed, they want to make change, and then they get into a system that's already established and they can't really change anything. They want to and they try, but there are just things that are in place, and it's like, boy, what do you think you're doing over
Yeah.
here?
I
Ultimately,
think this has to be a grassroots
yeah.
change.
does-
You know,
we're
it has
the
to be like
consumers.
me and you, and
Yes.
you know, nobody has to put any label on themselves. We just
Right.
want what's good. We want good food, and we want
Yep.
food that's not poisonous. We
Yeah.
want, you know, we want our kids to be healthy. We don't want to look around and see metabolic disease that's obvious on the outside on everybody we see.
And
But I
what's
think
terrible though is like with the schools though, we had talked before about, the food that they have to serve because of regulations and the food pyramid or the my plate or whatever. I mean, it's like it's garbage. The food that
Yeah.
the kids are served like for these, breakfast programs and stuff, it's terrible. And I don't know that a politician can necessarily change it, but you're right. I just think that it is good that it's being brought up.
I do too.
Nothing may be done.
But you know what? It's like they can provide the education, and if they can get a public platform in order that has a large audience in order to share what they know, like for example, Casey and Callie were interviewed by Tucker Carlson. He's got millions of viewers.
Yep.
And if they get on platforms like that, like if they could get on Joe Rogan or whatever, it's like they can get the education out there, and then it's up to us as consumers to quit buying this stuff and start buying that stuff, because ultimately we talked about last time, it's about the money. And if we as consumers stop funneling our money into the ultra processed foods, then the politicians are going to get the message, eventually, because, if we don't buy, then the businesses are going to go out of business unless they change. So it's one person at a time, doing the right thing. So.
All right. What section is next?
Well, we got fiber, which of course.
Fiber.
Carrie, you want to do fiber? I think we could all laugh at this one.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing that says fiber tells the microbiome, I love you.
It's like, well, it does until it doesn't. She says that it's which it is. It's a type of carbohydrate that's found in plants that's not fully broken down. But here's the thing. Why do you want to eat something that your body doesn't break down? Because when you poop, it's waste. So it's stuff that you don't use.
Yeah, and she's talking about how it's a postbiotic. We've been told it. Then the whole fermentation in your gut supposedly is a good thing. But again, we haven't really defined what a healthy microbiome is.
Right.
And I, just like I pointed out, I never remember whether I say something on our Keto Study Club or on this, but I did point out
same.
Yeah, about the Paleomedica study, where they showed that, gut permeability improved on a meat fat-based diet without any.
And that's the whole reason I'm on it, is because it helps with chronic candida, which is made worse by, which I think leads to the gut permeability getting worse.
Oh, I do too. Well, she talks about how the gut has been shown to be healthier for people who eat a lot of, fiber.
But I have a little caveat to that. Okay, this is my opinion. Like it's and I can only say that because we really don't even know a lot about the gut microbiome, right?
Yeah.
But this is a little caveat to that. I think, and I actually got in a argument at work with Chat GPT for about 30 minutes yesterday about this. And I kept correcting it, kept making it see my rationale, making it recognize my points. And I'm fully convinced that I'm going to change the messaging through Chat GPT on this, but anyway, probably not. But like basically, your gut microbiome is a reflection of what you eat. It's not just like,
Right.
okay, this is a healthy one, this is a not healthy one. If you don't eat things that require microbes that digest fiber, then I mean,
Right.
it seems pretty obvious to me that like
and if you don't eat inflammatory foods, that you don't need all of the bacteria that help with inflammation.
yeah, I mean
That was the whole thing when I had my gut test done, the GI map test done. The naturopathic doctor was like, "Oh, you're really low on all of these bacteria that help with inflammation." It's like, well, maybe it's because I don't need
what's
that.
causing the inflammation? The fiber, maybe the
I don't
all
know.
the roughage, all the I don't know.
But to be honest, when I was reading this and she was talking about the gut lining and how it's like healthier on people that are, eat all these foods, I'm, as my GI nurse background, I'm like going, okay, wait a minute. I dealt with thousands of GI patients, and I cannot tell you how many of them came in with gut issues and their colonoscopy was fine. And there was the mucosa of the colon, there were no issues with it at all. But there are so many people who have IBS that suffer like crazy, and that's not going to show on a colonoscopy. And you can have somebody who even has a diagnosed inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, and one colonoscopy to the other, it's going to show a difference in what their colon looks like. Sometimes it looks fine, and other times it's very inflamed. And so my whole thing, my radar went up. It's like, well, how did you determine this, that the colon is better with all of the fiber? Like, and you can't just look at the mucosa of the colon too. You have to look at the functioning of the colon. And IBS is a functional disorder, and there's so many people that suffer with it. And the fiber often makes it worse. So anyways, I can get on a soapbox about this.
Yeah. And I mean, who's to say who's wrong here, because this is such a untapped, area of science. It's
and if she feels good with her beans and lentils and she doesn't have any problem, and other people do too, that's fine. I just don't I really was upset with her blanket statement at the bottom of this first paragraph where she says the USDA's dietary guidelines for Americans state that over 90% of women and 97% of men do not meet the recommended daily intake of fiber, which is already set at an extremely low 25 to 31 grams per day, depending on age and gender. And she says, ideally, we should aim to consume 50 grams or more of fiber daily. Like, I seriously, in my years of working with GI patients, never found anybody who could consume 50, and if they tried,
that is huge.
It didn't feel worse. And
and I don't know, maybe it's just my weird body, but everybody worries about carnivores not being able to poop.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but I do that just fine unless I try to add a little fiber in, and then it constipates me.
So many people get more constipated with fiber. No, you can't just all of a sudden add a bunch of fiber. And so that was that's what we would tell them. Well, you got to gradually increase your fiber intake. And of course, if you're going to increase your fiber, you got to make sure you increase your fluid intake. It was work.
Yeah.
No. And so no, this whole fiber debate, it's like, I have my own opinions about it.
Yes, Mike, we're having poop talk now. We finally made it to the point in the show where we're talking poop.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to talk poop, right? So I was struggling to go enough on the carnivore diet. And the last time I had my blood work done, I had a folate deficiency. I started taking the folate supplements that my doctor recommended, and now no problem.
Yay!
So,
Lynn's pooping.
I'm pooping. Yes. And so I'm just wondering too, like folic acid and folate is not necessarily routinely checked. And I think I had a deficiency because of all those months where I was on the lion diet. I wasn't even doing the egg yolks. I didn't have a lot of like folate in my diet. And so, yeah, I don't know how long I had the deficiency, but I think that to me, I actually looked up folate deficiency and constipation, and it said, yes, that there is an association between them. And I've seen the results. So I don't know. If you're constipated on the full and on the carnivore diet, maybe get your folate levels checked and see if that's the issue.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God, this chapter is like.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you,
we're going an hour and a half.
We're just reading the headings here. I mean, like it's crazy. Each one of these headings have probably 2 to 4 pages. So number 4 is fermented foods. Fermented foods tell the body you can do it. You can do it.
You can do it.
So we all know fermented foods, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, minimally processed yogurt, kefir, natto, tempeh, kombucha, miso, kimchi, brine cured olives, beet kvass, and water kefir or kefir. I say kefir.
Which, by the way,
tomato
are all high histamine.
Yeah. I mean, just the like vinegar itself and just the act of the fermentation makes it high histamine.
So white vinegar is low histamine.
Is it? I always heard that vinegar was high histamine.
Most vinegars are. Yeah. White distilled vinegar is the exception. That's the one.
You are the foremost expert here on histamine. I will give you that.
That's the one vinegar I could have. And so, like, if I want a lower histamine treat that I can handle, I can actually do a little bit of vinegar. Like, I can eat devil eggs.
Yeah.
And I don't eat them very often, but if I do, I'll use like the mayo that has like an avocado based and nothing that has any seed oils in it. Like at the nesting party I was at yesterday, they had deviled eggs made with avocado based mayo. Yeah. But the vinegar, white vinegar, I do fine, no problem, and I do fine with plain French's mustard. But
yeah, sometimes I'll just I do this really lazy deviled egg, and sometimes I'll just use the avocado mayo, and then I'll just use a little mustard, and I might even throw I like the little pickle in mine too. But it's just really a lazy way of going about it. I don't even add any vinegar to it because I mean mustard's got vinegar in it, doesn't it?
It can.
I feel like
you probably do fine. It
kind of gives it that taste, that.
But yeah, I can't do any other kind of vinegar. So, but definitely the fermentation process definitely is high histamine, and so if you have histamine issues. Yeah, no, I used to eat sauerkraut before I went on the carnivore diet. I used to eat and add sauerkraut to whatever I was eating because I thought that it was going to be good for me.
Well, but sauerkraut that you buy in the store is not like real sauerkraut.
I bought the good stuff. I didn't buy the cheap. Yeah, I went to like the
I like the taste of the cheap kind.
Oh yeah. It has a lot of you can buy stuff that have a lot of sugar in it. But no, I bought those.
I mean, I haven't eaten it in forever, but there has been one sauerkraut incident in the last year, and I will say incident because it was not pretty.
All right.
Back to the poop talk, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I'm not even touching fermented vegetables, but before, oh, hey, Lindy's here. Hi, Lindy. Awesome. It's Monday for her, I guess.
Oh yeah,
she's in the future.
Yeah, but
she came back to the future.
Back to the future,
or back to the past. I don't know.
But,
she came back to the past.
Before I turned carnivore, I was actually looking into fermenting. This was back when I was baking my bread and all that, and I had actually got a book on fermenting vegetables, and that was the direction I was going. But that was still, I was having my 2-3 times a week throat swelling episodes. And it's like my brain wasn't making the connection that, okay, I was just thinking, okay, I need to eat more like what she's talking about, whole foods based. Everyone says fermented foods are good, but it was not taking me in the right direction at all. And so there's a lot of people who have histamine issues and don't necessarily even make the connection.
And there's a lot of carnivores who eat like kimchi.
Yeah.
They'll eat their meat with just a little side of kimchi, and they swear by it. So
yeah,
I tried it. It did not go beautifully for me.
Well, if you do have a problem with histamine, your gut will tell you.
I didn't get any of the like histamine type symptoms that, I've told you that I've gotten in the past, other than the like just explosive diarrhea.
And that may have been a histamine problem.
I mean, it could very well have been. I don't know.
Yeah. Because there's so many histamine receptors in the gut.
Or it could have just been introducing like a crap ton of bacteria that my system was ill-equipped to handle at that point. I don't know.
Possibly. But it's also cabbage. I don't know about you, but
cabbage messes me up, and so does lettuce. Cabbage and lettuce both will tear me up.
Yeah. So Lindy said that it just opened up cravings for her. So yeah, I haven't tried anything like that since I went carnivore. So
okay, so I'm trying to find a place to stop. It looks like maybe Carrie, do you want to read the number 5 and then we can stop after that?
Okay, so she says protein tells the cells, let's build. And I agree with that. I'm kind of shocked that protein is number 5. I'm kind of thinking that it should have been, number 1 maybe. But she says that dietary protein is an indispensable macronutrient that is essential for maintaining metabolic homeostasis. Protein is composed of amino acids, which serve as the structural and functional building blocks of numerous metabolic and physiological processes. So we all know, for example, it's common for people who are vegetarians or vegans really to have issues because they don't get enough protein and they're malnourished, and they can't, they just have a lot of problems with that. And so she does talk about GLP-1, which is interesting. She says that certain amino acids and proteins have a stimulatory effect on the specific satiety hormones like cholecystokinin. Thank you. And GLP-1. And so she says the best ways to get more in your diet include eating the following. And she does list meats as number 1, which is good. The first bullet point, meats.
Yay!
Beef,
which
chicken.
makes me think that she lists things in order of the concentration.
Yeah. And so she talks about meat and then fish and seafood, dairy. Greek yogurt is especially high in protein, she says, and eggs, oh yeah. When you think about it, an egg has, the whole entire chicken in it. So, it just hasn't developed yet, but unless it's ballot, which that's an actual dish where you know what I'm talking about? It's okay. That my son was in a food class in high school and they had ballot.
Is that where they eat the chicken, the baby chicken?
Yeah, it's like the embryo. So it's like started to grow, but it wasn't like fully, I don't know. But anyway,
it looks, if you Google some pictures of that, it looks so awful.
I think I've seen a picture of it and it's just making me cringe just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But so eggs are a complete source of protein that contains all essential amino acids, including leucine. And eggs, I think probably if you just ate nothing but eggs, you would probably just fine. Like if you didn't have bacon, beef, anything else, if you just ate eggs.
Yeah. Even just egg yolks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, she talks about legumes, beans, lentils, and peas. plant-based sources of protein, but they may have some protein in there, but I just don't think that they're just like the they're like they are not the real thing. They're like fakes. I think the meats are the true sources, I
Is
think.
that like an incomplete protein or something?
Mm-hmm. And then she talks about soy products, which soy, tofu, and tempeh, nuts and seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, stuff like that. Protein powder. She says if using protein powders, choose organic and or grass-fed or regenerative if animal-based.
I'm surprised that she's really recommending this soy products, considering what's known now about the phytoestrogens and I think, and of course I have brought up several critiques that I have about what she's writing, which overall is good, but it's just another example of her bringing something up like this is all good.
She said something. I thought I remembered her saying something about soy somewhere in here, and I don't remember exactly where it was.
But I mean, yes,
like about her rationale for why she thought it was okay. I can't remember what it was, though. I'll have to.
I don't remember, but yeah, I mean, but obviously it is a source of protein, so I guess maybe that's why she's listing it here, because it's a source, and if you're not eating any meat, then it's one way of getting some protein.
Yeah, so I was right. So many of the complete proteins are meat-based. Incomplete proteins are more vegetarian and vegan friendly. They include legumes, beans, peas, and lentils, nuts, seeds, whole grains, tofu, rice, and vegetables. So our protein is the best.
Yes, we have the superior source of protein. So, anyways.
So you have to like pair them. That's like the trick that vegetarians have to do. Like they have to really think about it to make it. They have to pair things to make a complete protein.
I remember for a little while I was trying to be vegetarian, and that was the thing. You have to combine things in order to make it a complete protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that just sounds like if there's too much thinking and planning involved, not for me.
Right. Same here.
Yeah, there's nothing like just popping something in the air fryer. And for me too, the less dishes necessary. Of course, my husband is wonderful and he does the dishes. But he's here going,
I love doing the dishes.
Well,
I don't like laundry, but I love
doing dishes, but he just thinks I'm messy and that clumsy. I am clumsy. I drop things. And so he'll see me doing dishes or doing stuff in the kitchen. He'll go, step aside.
I don't like to unload the dishwasher, but nobody can load the dishwasher.
We don't use our dishwasher. There's only the two of us, so we just hand wash our dishes. But it's nice because the air fryer is great because we use the parchment paper lining and clean up.
I pretty much don't own things that can't go into the dishwasher. Like when I have to, and that's not true, but I have to hand wash my pots and stuff, and it just irritates the what out of me.
Yeah.
I'll put everything in the dishwasher, and then I'm like, I know the manufacturer said not to put these pots in there, but what would really happen? So sometimes I'll go put them in there.
You've got a big family. You can probably fill the dishwasher pretty quickly.
We could do 3 loads a day some days.
Yeah. So with us, it's like it would take us days before we'd even get the dishwasher full enough to do it. So we just hand wash the dishes. So.
Yeah, because it would be stinking by then, wouldn't it?
Right. And it's everything, and you basically have to pretty much wash it anyways before you stick it in the dishwasher if it's going to sit there.
Yeah.
So washing it just makes sense. But anyways, all right. Well, I guess we're not getting through chapter 6 this time.
No, we're not.
It's all right.
It's okay.
This is a good discussion. It really is. I've enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to finishing chapter 6 because hopefully chapter 7 won't irritate me quite as much. And yeah, because it has to do with your biological clock. Although she does talk about meal timing, which is probably going to drive me crazy because I'm like,
I mean, but a lot of these things, like, we knew that we weren't reading a carnivore book. So like, we just kind of have to take, there's a lot of really good points in here. So I think we just kind of have to take and extract those and apply what applies. And then if it doesn't apply, let it fly kind of thing.
Yeah, if you're not carnivore and you're eating the crap American diet, this is a great place to start. Like if you follow her guidelines, you're going to be better.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just getting into like, okay, I'm not carnivore, I'm not even keto, but I want to eat healthy or healthier, start with organic foods, follow some of her suggestions and then you can kind of build on that. I would recommend building on that to get to a point where you can have your optimum health level.
Yeah, absolutely. And
she looks like a pretty healthy girl.
And like Lindy, some of these foods trigger cravings for her, and that was the case with me. So hopefully people will, if they do try to follow Casey Means recommendations, then they'll really be paying attention. Do you still have cravings?
And that's a lot of the key is just to start paying attention, start reading labels, and Susan has an excellent point. Start by shopping around the edge of the supermarket. I'm sure, we've all heard this for years, but it's so true.
And I did that for a long time and I still was sick, so it really is very individual, but, but I think it's probably because of the whole craving thing. It didn't stop.
Well, and also like when you started doing that, weren't you already pretty unhealthy at that point?
Yes.
So like we have to go a little more drastic, we have to go a little further than the average person, I think. And by the average person, I mean like the average younger, healthy-ish person.
Younger
because by the time we got to this way of eating, our health was so far gone that, we were desperate,
Yeah. It'd be nice to not have to get to the place of being desperate.
Yes.
Yeah. So
this is true.
I never shop when you're hungry. Yeah, that's right, Lindy.
Oh yeah. I had that rule for myself too.
Oh yeah.
It's hard though when you're an addict because hunger, I could go into the store and be not hungry at all, but I'd see something and it would be like, oh, I want that. And it would be the bakery section or the ice cream aisle or whatever,
Rebel ice cream used to get me because it was keto,
Oh yeah.
And so Publix sometimes would have a buy one, get one free on the Rebel ice cream. And the pralines and cream one was, and it's like 3 grams of net carbs if you eat two teaspoons of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so sometimes I would buy that. I'm guilty of that.
Mike wants to know if next oil change, can he use seed oils?
There we go.
You mean in your car?
In your car?
Probably.
In your car?
Ask Rick.
Yeah, Mike, as long as the user's manual says it's okay. But I would not put them in my body or my
your own risk.
My fryer.
Ask Rick, Charger Mopar. I think he uses seed oils in his vehicle.
He probably does.
I think he does.
He's a hoot. Oh, Mike said yes in his car.
Better in your car than in your body.
That's right. Yes. All right, guys. Well, it's been over an hour and a half. So I guess we better head out of here.
Yeah.
So next week, we're still going to be on the same chapter and we'll see you then.
That's right. Chapter 6, the eternal chapter that never ends.
Yes.
Never ending story.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week, guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.